Welcome everyone, it's Michael de Haan from Care to Grow. It's the second part of our series around women's empowerment, and I'd like to introduce Patricia Kaziro from Radiate Coaching. Patricia, thanks for being a part of this program with me.
Thank you, Michael.
I wanted to share just a bit of a brief. I met you, Patricia, I'm going to say 18 months ago. Time goes quickly.
It does.
And we actually, I suppose, resonated quite well together. We had the same sort of beliefs, the same sort of values, and it was really when you invited me to your International Women's Day. You're on a panel of 7 women.
Yes.
And it was really about women changing the world. And I was fascinated with 7 women talking about their journey. And in the sense, I don't know whether I've copied it, but I just sort of love that format and sort of bringing that out, again, what I'm doing to sort of empower women around voice and visibility. So thank you again for the invite. It was amazing hearing you speak. So I'm so glad I've got you today.
Thank you, Michael.
The interesting thing I found was that there was probably 100, 120 people there, and there was only about 7 men. So I'd really like to, as I said, have more men listening to empowered women about, their leadership and their journey, because one, it's quite empowering, and I think there's certainly a way and a model that we should be working closer together. So again, thank you. I'm going to give a bit of a brief.
Thank you. I have to say, I always think when they're in values, I do tend to invite people along to events, regardless of gender, because I know that we're working towards the same sorts of things, and that's really important for me to connect in. And I couldn't agree more that for women, we need to have men who are interested in gender-based issues for us to achieve progress towards gender equality. So thank you for coming and your interest and seeing such a dynamic panel of women up there. And for me to be included was a real honour. So thanks for joining.
No, thank you. Thank you. So I'm just going to, I suppose, give you a bit of a brief there. So a bit about you. So Patricia's business is Radiate Coaching. So you're a master coach, business mentor, and I suppose the value is coaching women so they can move from that sort of employee mindset to entrepreneur, and you provide that knowledge and tools for them to create wealth, but also create a legacy through social impact. So again, I'm really looking forward to maybe learning a bit more about that. I think we do get caught on that employee mindset. So again, what you're doing is so valuable, especially for women to move away from that employee to a real growth, dynamic mindset. So I look forward to
really
learning more a bit about that. But I wanted to, I suppose, start is just to talk to you a bit about you personally. Tell us the Patricia story, and then we can go from there.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. So the Patricia story, well, I'm in my 30s now, so it's a long one. But I'll try and keep it brief, perhaps to give a little bit of a background to how I ended up in business as an entrepreneur, working as a coach. When I left school, I wanted to be a journalist. So I was very interested in investigative journalism and discovering the truth. And I've always been passionate about social justice issues. So I was joining the dots and thinking, I'll go into journalism, travel the world, perhaps work as a foreign correspondent. So I chose to do an arts degree, and I wanted to learn languages. I chose to do gender studies. I majored in sociology, which is basically the study of our society and its systems and structures and inequity and things that are wrong. And I didn't end up becoming a journalist at all. But I finished up my degree thinking I'll go into research, social research. And I did a project in my last year of my arts degree where I was an intern at the AIDS Council of New South Wales. And I was posted onto a project for 6 months as a social researcher, helping Indigenous and Torres Strait Islander women to find out what their needs were as women living with HIV and how that service could help them by providing a higher level of service. So that was quite a transformative experience for me. And I thought, social research, that's what I want to do. And I graduated in July 2008, and the GFC had started. So it was terrible timing, of course, to be a graduate. And I felt that on the jobs market. It was hard to get a job that I had thought I'd I was well placed for.
Yeah.
And by default, in some ways, I ended up doing casework. And I'm grateful, you know, when you look back as you get a bit older and you look back at these sort of serendipitous, the way things turn out. I didn't get my job as a researcher, but I did end up being a caseworker in Redfern. And it was such a life-changing experience because I worked one-to-one with people who'd been long-term unemployed and who faced a lot of cumulative disadvantage.
Yeah.
And I was trying to help place them into work. But to place them into a job, I had to address concerns such as housing, health issues. Some people had recently come out of correctional centres. So it was a very difficult job, but I'm grateful for it because it honed my skills working with people. It's always a privilege to hear people's stories, to really gain that insight into someone else's life, I've learned is a privilege. And I had that straight out of uni for several years. So I guess it shaped my desire of working with people one-to-one and changing their life, helping them shift from where they are to what they can be. And often people can't see that for themselves. Yeah. So, yeah. So that's been one of my formative experiences. And on my, you know, employment journey, I worked in project management in government at a university in New South Wales. And I ended up starting a business. So I copied my brother, really. I have an older brother and he's very creative like me, and he started a business. And I thought to myself, I want to do that. So I gave it a shot and I loved it. I loved the creative process in business. And it's led me to start 2 businesses. And where I've ended up is working on my business now, Radiate Coaching, for the last 4 years. And I came into that really coming back to wanting to help transform people's lives in a positive way without, I guess, some of the deeper hardship that's faced through casework. Coaching is a very positive environment to be in when you're with the right person who wants to experience change. And I help people to set up impactful businesses. So I've brought in my knowledge from the impact space, and I help people to set up businesses that are impactful and sustainable, as well as being profitable.
Wow. So what's an example of that sort of business in regard to the impactful side?
Yes. So I have a client in the States who is setting up a food-based service, and it's a vegan business. Okay. So with the damage that's done, I guess, through farming and the rearing of animals for us to eat, this is the antidote to that, the vegan movement. And she's setting up that a plant-based business because she wants people to be able to experience healthy eating. Obesity is a major issue in the United States. Yeah. So for people to come back to healthy, plant-based, vegan food that also doesn't degrade and damage the environment.
Yeah. Thank you. So before we go on and how you've used your voice and visibility to be a leader that you are, just want to ask you a question anyway around sort of COVID, and we've all been sort of locked up, so to speak, or lives have changed to a certain degree. What are some of the learnings that you've got from COVID?
Yeah, I mean, it's been on a personal level a transformative year, I have to say. And I think in the slowing down, I've come back to my own values and probably reining in some of my external connection to focus in on my own personal relationships and reconnecting with people quite deeply. And in particular, my parents, who are getting a little bit older. Yeah. I've spent so much quality time with them during this period, and I'm so grateful for that because I've gotten to know them in a different way. I think when you're super busy and you just catch up with them casually, you often forget like they're real people and what are their needs and the storytelling. And I've just been able to reconnect with who they truly are at this stage in their lives. And that's been very important to me, to have had this time together. That's been quality time. Yeah. And then I think on a business level, it's probably the realization that there's so much outside of our control, and there's a lot of market changes happening. And in Australia, we've experienced that with the bushfires, and now with COVID and the economic downturn. I think this is actually the future of the transition we're in, is that there's going to be a lot of external factors outside our control in business, and just rethinking a business model to be sustainable, to be able to withstand external pressures. And how do you do business in this new era? And how do you serve people best? And I'm really interested in this trend towards mindful consumption that ties in perfectly with my own philosophy and way of doing business. And people at this particular point in time, the research has found, they want to connect into products and services that really make them feel secure and kind of have a soft experience, because the outside world at the moment is just, it's harsh. So it's really interesting to think beyond also, like, the product and service that you deliver, to the actual customer experience and journey that you're taking someone on from start to finish, as a way of nurturing and caring for that person or people, and to build them into a long-term relationship within your brand.
Yeah.
Well, that's been it's been a learning curve.
So 2 great learnings there.
Thank you.
And thank you for sharing that. So one was quite personal. So again, thank you for being open about that.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to ask a question around how you've used your sort of voice and visibility to be the leader that you are now, or I suppose some tips that you might be able to share younger women in regard to going on a similar journey that you've been on.
Well, I've always found that your voice is probably your greatest sort of superpower in life and business. And that's why I'm glad we're having this conversation. And I felt that we've been aligned in wanting to see how we can use our voices as individuals for social change to empower women. And for myself, it probably goes back to when I was, as I was mentioned before, when I did my undergraduate degree, a Bachelor of Arts, and I was working on this project at the AIDS Council of New South Wales. And I was specifically working with a very marginalised group, which were Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders who had HIV. And the giving someone else a voice was through my research. So asking questions that empowered them, because I could take that information as qualitative research, so through their stories, and take that back to the organisation and say, this is what this group of women wants. This is what will help them to live better lives, a higher quality of life. And your organisation, if you take on board this information, you can do great things to empower this group of women. So in that instance, it's being a conduit for another group of people who don't have the platform to speak.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think this is what we can do as individuals, as business people, is give other people the platform to be heard. So in that case, through research. And a great outcome from that project that I worked on and led as the researcher was that the organisation endorsed my recommendations. So they implemented what these women had said.
Wow, good work.
So that's a really powerful experience, to know that when you've gone out and interviewed all these people you don't know from a bar of soap, that I was able to connect in with them deeply, that they felt comfortable to tell their stories, which is the most personal of nature related to sexual health, and as marginalised people in this country, and take that back to an organisation who was willing to listen and to have them implement. So being in the middle of that process is really powerful. And then I think moving forwards through my own business, which I've geared towards working with women, because I knew that from first-hand experience and also research that I had done, women face a lot of additional barriers in business, such as access to funding, such as finding the right mentors, finding networks of other people to refer business to and to get advice from.
Yeah.
So I set up my business as a coach for women to specifically help women. And one of the initiatives that I ran in 2018 was a speaker series to unashamedly profile female entrepreneurs who were doing highly impactful initiatives in business.
Wow. Yeah.
So being the organizer and being the host of these kind of conversations that we could delve into their business challenges, what their learnings had been, as well as their achievements. Because often in the media, this gets missed. And I've had that experience as well from another project I worked on where I wasn't able to talk about my achievements. And that's how you build a business. And it's also how you help other women learn.
Yes.
That they can go on and do the same thing, or this is how you overcome XYZ.
Yeah.
So we need to have these conversations. And I ran 2 of these speaker series, and they were a fantastic opportunity to profile and showcase impact entrepreneurs here in Sydney. And then my day-to-day work, I have mentored a couple of women, one through an alumni program from a postgraduate degree I undertook at Western Sydney University, which was a pleasure to mentor another alumnus, I think it's of the university, yeah. Alumnus. And I'm actually about to start mentoring an impact entrepreneur from New Zealand. So which will be a great honour because she's working on a highly impactful business. So mentoring roles, and obviously my day-to-day business, what I do through that, to be specific, I do help women cultivate that platform for themselves. So I can't always be there. I won't always be here. And this is this concept of legacy. How can I pass on my learnings about stepping up into your seat of power as an impact entrepreneur and impact CEO and pass that on? And I'm creating educational programs where I can pass on this knowledge over the next year. But essentially, I help women cultivate that confidence to be an eco-messenger and spread the word about their impact that they're creating, because you have to be a messenger in business so that people understand what you're doing. It's not about selling specifically. It's about educating, as I see it. Yeah. If you have a product that solves a problem that's going to help people, and particularly if it's one that doesn't harm the environment or it benefits other people, you really need to hone your impact branding and cultivate a story. Storytelling's the easiest way for us to understand each other and relate. So I help women to develop a brand story and an impact brand, and to really step up as CEOs into their business.
Wow. And you're the conduit, so you actually have to support them with their story, which you were years ago. So
yeah,
that's exciting. So just on that, we spoke about it before, but there'll be young women sort of listening to this and maybe looking to connect with you, just to maybe share where they're up to, or even some more around your story. Would you offer some sort of discovery meeting or an opportunity for them to speak with you down the track?
Absolutely. I think if anybody is listening, and I should say if you are any gender, because I work with all genders, but if you're listening and my story's resonated, or you think that there's something in there that you'd like to explore in a supportive environment, I would love to hear from you, because I have worked with such a diverse range of people. Yes. And it's a real honour to hear somebody else's story. And my gift and expertise is in developing talent through coaching. So if you also have an idea about how you want to change the world, no idea, in my opinion, is too stupid. I'm an open ear there. So please do reach out. The best way probably would be via email, which is patriciakaziro@mail.com.
Yep.
And you can also look up my website, where there's more information about my strategy coaching and success coaching, and the different programs that I run. And that's www.radiatecoaching.org.
And we'll provide those details as well, Patricia. So again, I was really excited about catching up this morning. One, I've already heard you speak on the International Women's Day, and I found it amazing, very inspirational. And again, this morning, sort of sharing your story, I found it again very inspirational. It drives me to, continue down this pathway of women's empowerment, voice and visibility. So again, thank you, and thank you for your time. It's so valuable.
Thank you, Michael. It's been a pleasure to speak with you. And I think for us to have had this continued conversation where each time I catch up with you, we're hearing about the next steps you're taking on your journey to empower women. And I think, in the future, more of us need to work together to create that collective impact. So I'd like to also thank you for your efforts within the space.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me today.